Hello and welcome to 18 WJTS-Inform. Well, we all know the significance of Abraham Lincoln to this area. Well, let's find out more about a way you can learn more about Abraham Lincoln. Joining us in the studio is Mike Capps. He is the Chief of Interpretation at the Lincoln National Boyhood Memorial. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You're actually a ranger, aren't you?
Yeah,
you're the Chief Ranger.
I'm the Chief Park Ranger at the park, yes.
All right. You have an event coming up that is different, and the word probably of what it is going to confuse people a little bit, but because it sounds so academic. However, it kind of sums up what it is, and that is the Lincoln Colloquium.
Yes, Lincoln Colloquium.
What is the Lincoln Colloquium?
Well, the Lincoln Colloquium is a gathering. The word colloquium comes from the Latin, which means conversation, and it began 31 years ago at Lincoln Home National Historic Site in Illinois. And has now grown to include about 6 different partners. Lincoln Boyhood is one of those partners, and we will be hosting it this year on October 7th and 8th of this year.
Okay, so this is an event that happens every year, but kind of rotates.
It rotates around from one site to another. Last year it was at the Lincoln College in Galesburg, Illinois. Next year it's scheduled to be at the Chicago History Museum. The Indiana Historical Society and the Fort Wayne Public Library are also involved in hosting it various years.
Well, how appropriate to have it this year at Lincoln National Boyhood Memorial with the bicentennial.
Right, right. So this year is our second time to host a colloquium. We did it first time 6 years ago. And what we're going to have is about a day-and-a-half long event that will include noted Lincoln authors and scholars, and the theme this year is going to be Lincoln in public memory. Lincoln is really such a pervasive figure in our history and even in our culture in many, many ways. Mm-hmm. So we will have speakers who will be talking about various aspects of that. Gentleman from the University of Georgia, Barry Schwartz, has written a couple of different books on the idea of Lincoln in public memory. He'll be speaking specifically about the Gettysburg Address and its lasting impact on our country. We'll have 2 professors from the Indiana University, Ed Linenthal and Eric Sandweiss, who have written extensively on the subject of collective memory in general, how we come to form our memories as a society. And then Jim Percoco, who is from Virginia, who is a noted high school teacher who has written a book on Lincoln in public memorials and statues. So those will be the speakers that we'll have on Friday. That will be taking place at the Vincennes University campus here in Jasper at the Center for Technology building.
Which is a great building and a great facility for that.
Yes. It is a very nice facility. So we will be It'll run from 9 o'clock until 5 o'clock Eastern Time on Friday. Then on Saturday, the participants will be invited to come down to the park, to Lincoln Boyhood National Memorial, for a tour of the park facilities there. And that will start at 8 o'clock Central Time. So we're kind of dealing with the two different time zones. It may get a little confusing, but hopefully folks can keep up.
It always does get a little bit confusing in this area. So this Lincoln Colloquium is going to bring people from all over. I guess Lincoln fanatics are all going to be coming.
The audience typically is made up of a mix of other scholars and historians, as well as just a lot of folks from the general public who are interested in Abraham Lincoln. One of our partner organizations on this is the Abraham Lincoln Association out of Illinois. So they generally publicize it to their membership. We are also working with Historic Southern Indiana out of Evansville as another one of our partners. And they're actually, Historic Southern Indiana is actually handling all the registration for us this year.
Now, it's the Lincoln Colloquium, so who are you hoping will attend? Who are you hoping registers?
It's really open to anyone. It's open to the general public, anyone who has an interest. We're hoping to attract some students. We're hoping to attract other, like I said, members of other Lincoln organizations, as well as just the general public. It's an opportunity for people to come and hear some of these authors and scholars speak. You know, they don't have that opportunity very often to do that. So.
And how can somebody register? And is there a cutoff?
There's not necessarily a cutoff. To register, they would need to go to the Historic Southern Indiana website. I can provide registration information for anyone who is interested, and they can do the registering online. The cost will be $60. That'll be for both days, and will include lunch on Friday as well.
Could they register the day of?
They could register that day. If they come and they haven't had an opportunity to do that ahead of time, we can do the registration still on that day.
On Friday the 7th?
Friday the 7th, yes.
Okay. What is it about Abraham Lincoln that just really seems to attract people?
I think that he is truly one of those enduring figures of history. Abraham Lincoln, you know, of course, led the country at an extremely crucial time in our country's history through the Civil War. He's associated, of course, with the Emancipation Proclamation and the passage of the 13th Amendment, the abolishing of slavery, and then, of course, the tragic circumstances under which he died, being the first president to be assassinated. And he really has entered the public consciousness in a big way following his death. The outpouring of mourning and grief throughout the country following his death was unprecedented. And at that point he almost entered, I think, kind of became part of our country's mythology and folklore. Mm-hmm. And that has persisted. He is probably the one president that is most well known really throughout the world. We had an event just recently at the park where the American Chinese Society had donated a statue of Abraham Lincoln to the park. And it was done by a Chinese artist who is enamored with Abraham Lincoln. And so he's one of those figures that really you could go just about anywhere in the world, and if you mentioned Lincoln, people would at least be familiar with him.
And he has had so many interesting sayings, was a brilliant man, pretty well self-taught.
Yes.
And most of that self-teaching happened right in Spencer County.
Happened right here in Indiana, yeah. He, of course, was born in Kentucky, only lived there until he was only 7, which time his family moved here to southern Indiana. He spent the next 14 years here, so from the ages of 7 to 21, which is, in anyone's life, is an extremely formative period.
Right.
And you're right, what education he had, what little formal education he had, he gained here in Indiana. He went to several different schools during his time here, but he himself admitted later that if you were to add up the cumulative total of his schooling during his 14 years here, it would have been less than 1 full year. So in many respects, he was self-taught.
Now, I guess if you want to find out more about Abe Lincoln, obviously stop by the National Memorial, which is open 365 days a year. Maybe you're closed on Christmas.
We're open, yeah, we're closed on Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's Day. But other than that, we're open all year round. We are beginning to kind of wind down our season right now. Our Living Historical Farm will close for the season on September 30th. It'll still be available. Visitors will still be able to visit it. It's just that we won't staff it after September 30th. With a couple of exceptions. We have a few other special events going on this fall as well.
Now the Interpretive Center, which is the horseshoe-shaped, that's open all the time.
Yes.
And that's a neat little place to go to. The stone carvings on the outside alone are worth seeing.
It's a truly unique building. It was built in the 1940s, actually, when it was by the state of Indiana. Because we started out as the state park, of course, before it became a national park. And the 5 sculptured panels on the outside of the building were commissioned especially for that building. It's all made out of at least as much as they were able to. They built it entirely out of native Indiana materials. So it's Indiana limestone, Indiana sandstone, has tulip poplar beams in the two memorial halls, a lot of cherry wood. So it's really a very unique building.
Let's get back to your Lincoln Colloquium. It's coming up the 7th and 8th.
7th and 8th of this month.
Register now, or you could register that day.
You register now if you can. Like I say, you can go online to do that. I can, if anyone wants information about how to do that, they can contact me at the park, and I'll be glad to send that to them. We have put out press releases and tried to get the word out as widely as we can, and hoping to attract a good crowd.
Okay, and the Lincoln Colloquium is not something held every year in this area, but it is held every year, but this year it is here.
It's about every 6 years it comes here to be at Lincoln Boyhood. And like I say, next year will be at the Chicago Historical Society. In 2018, it's scheduled to be at the Indiana Historical Society in Indianapolis.
But this year, it's right here, and it'll be at Vincennes University Center for Technology and Innovation. And the next day, then, it is actually at the Lincoln Memorial.
At the Lincoln Memorial. Yes.
Mike, thank you very much.
Sure. Thank you.
Our guest has been Ranger Mike Capps. He is the Chief of Interpretation at the Lincoln National Boyhood Memorial. The Lincoln Colloquium is coming up the 7th and 8th. You can register, find out more by contacting Mike at the Interpretation Center, or I'm sure online. There's different ways. Call the park, and they'll help you out. Thank you very much for being our guest.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you for watching WJTS in Form. We are local people watching local people.